Good day. We're learning the Kuntis in Yonash Oteres Chasidus and the essence of Chasidus. We're on page 23 in the Hebrew and 22 on the English side in the Heritage Series edition. Now, the Rebbe who wrote this, who edited this, and this is his work, he gave us so far three reasons for the need of Chasidus and why the Baal Shem Tov came at the time when he came and introduced Chasidus. To recap, number one was that during the time of the Baal Shem Tov, it followed the Helmanitsky pogroms of the mid-1600s, and there was spiritual and physical devastation in the Jewish people in the greater European area, Podolia, and that whole area. And it came along with an attitude that was hovering over the community, where if you learned Gemara and Talmud and you knew how to learn, you were a Jew, and if you didn't, you were considered barely a Jew. And the Baal Shem Tov said that this is not going to get us to leave our depressive state that we are in, and therefore the Baal Shem Tov said, let's focus on the neshama. Which learning focuses on the soul, on the neshama? Chasidus. Gemara focuses on the legalistic. Halacha rules the legalistic. Musar focuses on the ethical. And Chasidus focuses on the soul. I just gave you a nice short definition of each of the four parts of Torah that is good to know. Again, Gemara deals with the legalistic. Halacha rules the legalistic, makes the rulings. The Gemara is the discussion of the legalistic, and Halacha is the rulings of the legalistic. And then you have Musar, which is the ethics, and Kabbalah, which is the mystical. And then comes Chasidus. And this is what the Rebbe looks to explain throughout this essay, is that Chasidus is the essence of each of the four, and how through Chasidus, specifically, not Kabbalah, not Halacha, not Gemara, and not Musar, even though he doesn't talk about Musar really in this kuntris, but those are all absolute parts of Torah. Without them, you didn't learn all of Torah. But in order to get the person, the shama, the soul, to move, you need to focus on the soul. Who focuses on the soul? Siddhas. And today we're going to learn a little more about that. So that was the first reason. The second reason that the Rebbe brought here is that a chassid does things lefnim meshuras adin, beyond the law, right? Lefnim meshuras adin, and he brought the Gemara Seir from Chassid. And I looked into this more over Shabbos and spoke to a few people in shul, because what was bothering me is the following: why does the Gemara say that the parings of the nails, if you bury them, you're a tzaddik, and if you burn them, you're a chassid? So Tosfos over there in the Siddhas Nida explains that the reason for the concern is that the tradition is that if a pregnant woman walks over parings of nails, she could lose her pregnancy. Don't ask me, how, what, that's what the Gemara says. Okay. So for that matter, take and bury it like you bury any other part. Rahman Litzlan, God forbid, if you need to amputate a part of a body, it's buried in the earth. It's holy. So therefore, bury also the parings. So the Gemara says yes, but if you do that, the Gemara says you're only a tzaddik, you're only righteous. You want to be a chassid, you want to be greater than the law, burn them. Tosfos asks, what's the logic? And the answer is because by burning them, you're actually damaging yourself. And there's no requirement to damage yourself and hurt yourself for another person. As long as you protect the other person by burying the nails, the person can't walk over them anymore. None of us then. You're afraid maybe somehow the place you buried will be revealed, opened, and the pregnant lady will step on them. So if you burn them, they don't exist anymore. When you burn your nails, you're burning part of your body. And this is important. Someone gave me an example that he heard once. Did you ever see someone kick a dead body, a corpse of a human being? If you were at a funeral or you were at a tahara and you saw the body and someone went and gave it a kick and said, it's dead, there's nothing there, you would really be very upset. Okay? It's outrageous. But why? It's a body, it's lifeless. What's the answer? The answer is that the body is holy, and every part of the body, even that part of the body that's been separated from its source, is holy, is special. So these nails, the pairings of the nails, although they were physically removed from the person's body, they still have, let's use an English word, a sentimental value. Again, it's much more the sentimental value. But I just even use the word sentimental value. So for you to go and burn part of your body is not right. But why are you doing it? You're doing it for one reason. Because you're afraid that a pregnant woman might step on them. So that means you're damaging yourself, you're damaging a part of your body for the concern of a second person. If you could do that, you're a chassid. Hello, do you guys get it? I want to make sure you understand what I just said, because I spent a lot of time on the Shabbos.
Yes. Yeah.
You got it. Okay. As long as you understand. If not, ask me. That's the real meaning. That's what Chasidus explains, and I Chasidus doesn't say it so elaborately, but that's the way I put it together. Okay.
Rabbi Dow, for one question.
Yes.
When the Gemara says a house is higher than a tzaddik, he's not referring to the depth of the tzaddik is used in Tanya.
I'm sorry? What?
He's not referring to the definition of a tzaddik in the Tanya.
No. Gemara is not Tanya.
Right.
That's talking about, are you completely righteous? Righteous means you do what the law says. Chassid, according to the Gemara, means he does beyond what the law says. That's why the Rebbe brings here as the second reason for learning Chasidus, for the need of Chasidus, is for a person to be a chassid, not just a tzaddik. We don't mean a chassid with a beard and payas. That's not what we mean. We mean the attitude of the person. You could be a litvak. The question is, are you just doing for yourself, and you're taking care of all the legalistic things, everything is covered, or are you going even against your own self? That's a chassid. Okay, mute yourself again, whoever is doing. Okay. Then on page 23, the first paragraph, he brings over here the third reason that Chasidus came to change the quality of the midos, not just the ugly character traits, what we call midos tiviyim, what's natural, get up every day, eat, learn, daven, work, nature. And I'm sorry, not only to change behavior that's not nice, midas tiviyim, but to change also just the idea that something is natural. And Chabad Chasidus basically says what's natural is klipa. And Alter Rebbe alludes to it in the first chapter in Tanya. What's natural to us is not holy, it's klipa. And you go tell that, you go into a Beis Medrash in Bet Shemesh, and you go tell that to the people there, they'll want to throw you out. What are you talking about? We're learning and davening here day and night. We have shtiblach, we have minyanim, and ba. But it's natural for you. You don't know any better. You don't have any temptation. If not to learn. All you know is how to learn and want to learn and learn. Great, great. Comes Chasidus and says, that doesn't make you yet holy. Or better said, it doesn't make you yet a chassid. And the same is for a chassid. If a chassid isn't breaking their own boundary, they're not a chassid. They're a good Jew. They're even a Hasidic Jew. But they're not a chassid of what the Rebbe writes here is the purpose of Chasidus of the Baal Shem Tov. And by the way, these things that we're learning is not just for Chabad. Okay, so although we're learning a kuntris that the Rebbe wrote, but he's addressing Baal Shem Tov. I want to make that very clear from the very beginning. So whether you're a Satmar, a Bavar, a Belzer, a Vishnitzer, it applies to you. And guess what? It applies to a Misnagid, to a Litvak, to a Sfarad, to every Yid. The question is, do you want to identify and understand what is the message of Baal Shem Tov? Okay. Now, we're going to learn 23 Oish Dalit. I want to read it first, and then we're going to explain, okay? Teiras HaChasidus, come on, page 23, the fourth point. Teiras HaChasidus, Chidsha, Teiras HaChasidus created, Asher kol echad v'echad, that each individual, gam yishe'ein lo neshama gavoya, someone, even someone who doesn't have a very lofty soul. And number two, v'gam lo yizicheches atzmoi, v'gam, you could say, and even if he does have a lofty soul, but guess what, Yonason? He didn't refine himself. You can have the loftiest soul, but if you don't work on yourself, refine yourself, it's worth, as we say in good old-fashioned Yiddish, kaduchas. You heard of kaduchas? It's a Hebrew word, kaduchas.
Yeah, my grandfather used to say that all the time.
Yeah, but what does it mean, kaduchas, kadachas? It's from the Teichach. I think it's from last week's Parsha. If yeah. It's new boils, or what is it called, kadachas? It's typhus. It's
legion.
What?
Legions, no?
No, not legion. It's very intense heat where your body, maybe it's typhus. I don't know. I mean, boils. Kadachas. But it was in the slang in Yiddish. It means zero. It's worth zero. It's worth kadachas. It's worth nothing. In other words, it's only a headache. It's only boils. It's meaningless. So, even if you have a holy soul, and I want you to listen to this, Chavra, even if you have the greatest parents, but if you don't refine yourself, then garnished. 1 second, Yiddish, I'll get back to you. 1 second, give me a second. Says the Rebbe, even if that's the situation. So again, either if you don't have a holy soul, a lofty soul, and even if you do have one, but you didn't take the time to refine your character, yuchol hasik elokus. Every individual can still understand godliness. You see, Kabbalah, mysticism, what we call Kabbalah, there two elements are required. Either you should have a lofty soul, so automatically your soul relates to loftiness and mysticism. But it's not that you understand it. It's that you gravitate because of the loftiness of your soul, or you refine yourself so much that the Kabbalah, that the energy coming from mysticism resonates within you. However, it doesn't mean you understand godliness. Trust me, most people reading Zohar and learning Zohar don't understand a half a word they're saying. Okay? And even those that understand the translation, you're not going to say that they are masig elokus. Look at the words here. Masig elokus means to comprehend godliness. Guess what? through the study of Chasidus, the Baal Shem Tov teaches, you can understand godliness, mamish godliness. You can understand the way Hashem operates. Why? How? So he says, let's continue. Ki al yedei zeh she'toras haChasidus biara. Next page. Through this, that Chasidus took Kabbalistic ideas and explained it. Next page, 24, 25. And so in Yonim shel chelek hayesoid shebetoira, Chasidus took those parts of Torah that are called esoteric part of Torah, i.e. mysticism, Kabbalah, v'keirvosam el haseichel, and brought them close to the mind, to the intellect. How? B'dugmoyes u'misholim, through analogies and examples, utchunas hanefesh, and characteristics of the soul. And he quotes the verse, Mipsari echzelaka. Chasidus is always quoting this verse because it's based on this. From my flesh, I perceive godliness. In other words, if I can understand, Moshe, how I operate, my mind, my heart, my character, I will understand how God operates. So the better you understand yourself. We have Rabbi Gordon with us today, Baruch Hashem. Welcome back. Good to see you. I guess you benefit from Memorial Day in America, huh? Anyway. So, mipsari echzeleka, from my flesh I perceive godliness. So if you understand yourself better, you'll understand God better. And that's a chidush. That's a novelty. So when you learn Kabbalah, Yoni, it's abstract. So for example, it's like you got a plumbing system in your house, right? The plumber comes and you have a leak. The question is, how do you fit the pipe? How do you fit the pipe? So there's A to A, B to B, large to large, small, right? It's the pipeline of Yiddishkeit, of Judaism, is Kabbalah. So, as I've told you before, there are people, before they make a bracha, they think about which nikud, which vowelization of the Shem Hashem is appropriate for that bracha based on what it says in Kabbalah. So for Sfiras HaOmer, it's one nikud. For Kiddush, it's another nikud. And for Bris Milah, it's a third nikud. And that's a lot of knowledge to have stored and know exactly. And as I've actually seen with my own eyes, people who do this, they have to stop and they do it slow because they got to memorize which nikud and which Shem Hashem they're being miyachad. It's called yichudim, unifications. Yeah, it makes you feel lofty, and maybe you are lofty, but it's not something that you could say, I understand that, like I understand my 5 fingers, how I understand that they work, and or the way my mind works and my heart works. It's not that type. It's mechanical. Okay, Kabbalah is a very mechanical approach. And yes, does it work? Well, if you have the right pipes, the water will flow through properly, and you're going to get great water. So if you connect to the right Shem Hashem, the right name of Hashem, with the correct nikud, with the correct vowelization, a certain type of energy is going to flow through you and your house that day. And when and Kiddush comes, and you try using the same vowelization, it's not going to work. And that's why it could quite well be why sometimes a certain bracha mitzvah, it flows, and a certain one, it doesn't flow, although you did the mitzvah, which is the most important thing. But you're missing the right pipes, the right connection. Yes, you want to ask something? Okay.
Yes, Rabbi. I
Yeah.
think Jonathan wanted to ask something first. Though.
Yes,
So
you're right. You're right.
I'll wait my turn.
Yonason, I'm sorry. Go ahead. You wanted to say something.
I just wanted to say that there is a thing called applied mathematics and theoretical mathematics. So Kabbalah is almost like theoretical mathematics. Applied mathematics means what am I going to do to add 1 and 1 is equal to 2? How am I going to do things?
Right.
So the story I think about the Magic came to the Baal Shem Tov, and they are both the Baal Shem Tov asked the Magic to explain it in Kabbalah. And he explained it. And then the Baal Shem Tov said, close your eyes. And he saw it, and the Baal Shem Tov helped the Magic to see what he was learning, to experience what he was learning, to see the Malachim. So that's the difference between applied and theoretical.
Right. Thank you. I would say that the Rebbe is adding another nuance to that, a different nuance. You're talking about applied to theoretical. What the Rebbe is adding here, to experience the applied, you need Chasidus. To experience the applied in a way that you come to that determination, you need the study, the hasaga velikus. You have to understand Hashem. Yoini, this is the whole difference between Chabad, Breslev, and all the other Chasidus. The whole emphasis on all these things we've been learning for 5 years, and you all know that what we've been learning, it gives you a glimpse into how God operates. And why is that important? Because that excites your mind. That turns your mind on. And when your mind's turned on, you're more active. You're more excited about it. So this is what he says, but I do want to finish the paragraph. Nitno efshorus l'chol echod ve'echod lahasid gam chelik zeh shebetoyre. Says the Rebbe, through Chasidus, every individual has the ability to understand even the Kabbalah. Mysticism becomes clearer through Chasidus. So in other words, till the Baal Shem Tov, if you were a holy soul, if you had a holy soul, a lofty soul, or you didn't, but you worked on yourself and refined yourself, and then you studied Kabbalah, you learned Kabbalah, it maybe lifted you up, but you didn't understand it. Comes along Chassidus, the Baal Shem Tov, and teaches you methods through parables and examples, and as Yonason said, applied methods. Not just 1 + 1 = 2. Tell me, how does 1 + 1 = 2? Why does 1 + 1 = 2? Why can't 1 + 1 = 3? Give me a logical argument. And the same is for every issue. So when you start understanding this, then Kabbalah means the received tradition from on high, will be appreciated even by someone who doesn't have a lofty soul or someone who didn't refine himself. And he says that this can be understood not only in the intellect of the godly soul, which we discussed in the last year or two, it can be understood also in the logic of the rational soul, to the extent it can even be understood in the seichel of the nefesh abamis. Now what we're going to do is go back and read note number 8. But before that, did you have a question?
Yes, yeah, I did.
Go ahead.
Rabbi, I mean, in my limited experience with learning Chasidus, I think when you get to a certain stage, at least, you need a background in Kabbalah to understand, to have a grasp of what certain concepts are. And I think having a good understanding of Kabbalah helps you learn Chasidus. It's not that they're just separate things. I mean, what do you say? What's your?
It's not what I'm going to say. It's what the Rebbe is going to say throughout later in the Kuntras. But briefly, of course, I agree with you. Of course, you need to have a background if you really want to understand. But having the mechanics without the understanding remains that mechanics.
Sure.
So let's say Hashem energizes the world in three ways: Malak Kol Almim, Seviv Kol Almim, and Atzmos. Okay. So Mamala and Seviv are concepts in Zohar Kodesh, etc. The pervading energy of God and the peripheral energy of God. Now you go tell that to someone in the street, they'll look at you. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
It says in Zohar. And I can show you the page. Thank you very much. What does that mean? And if you don't, unless you learn Likutei Torah of the Alter Rebbe, who starts explaining that and breaking it up in great detail, you have no idea what that means. Sorry. And I'm not talking about someone who's just, ignorant or a novice. I'm talking about the scholar. And prove me wrong. Go over to a scholar in your community who learns Kabbalah and ask them some basic questions and give me the feedback. I mean, I tested it. It's not, I time tested this when I was a teenager in the mikveh in Borough Park. So it's Friday afternoon, and we have a mikveh at that time, like one big mikveh on 46th Street, which in fact they say the Rebbe went to once when the mikveh in Crown Heights wasn't operative. And it was like the show of town at 4 o'clock Friday afternoon. Everyone came to the mikveh, or from all of Borough Park, because it was a large mikveh, a hot mikveh with many showers, and you had a soda machine outside. It was a production. And of course, there was the mikveh chat. Who would give away mikveh chat? Just for the mikveh chat, you wanted to go to the mikveh. Okay. So after I come out of the mikveh and I'm washing my hands and I see a chassid who's a teenager like me, older, younger, I don't know. And I guess, I do have the nature to start up, to make a little trouble. So I give him, I say to him, you're a chassid, yeah? He says, yeah, with the pay is flying. I said, could you tell me what the spheros are? He looks at me. What? I said, you never heard of the spheres? The spheres? He says, oh, yeah. I heard, yeah, but we don't learn that. I have no idea what that is. I said, how old are you? 18. Uh-huh. You're 18 and you don't barely know what the word spheros means. Once you pick up ha, you have no idea. That happened in 1977, 78 at that time. Postscript to 2000, 2005, I'm here in Borough Park again. This time, a very fine chassid asks me to learn Chasidus with him. But he says, not Tanya. I said, no problem. And he's a friend. But if he was going to learn Tanya, means the Lubavitcher is trying to make him a Lubavitcher. You don't want that. No problem. We're going to learn Chochmah Shleima from the Radomsker, from the Holy Tzaddik, the Radomsker. And we start learning 3 lines into the Sefer. Some Kabbalah comes up. He says, let's skip that. Okay. 2-3 lines later, a little more Kabbalah. Let's skip that. Basically, most of the page was skipped because It's Kabbalah words. I said I was taught to try to understand what it says and give it a chance. He says, well, not in my yeshiva. In our yeshiva, whenever it came to Kabbalah words, we just go on. So, besides the sociological issue that's being identified here, there is the idea, this is all to answer your question, your point, Baruch, that even just knowing the Kabbalistic legal, mechanics, it means nothing. It means nothing. Let me say this. It does mean that if you're a sensitive person, or you have a lofty soul, you will be inspired with loftiness. But that's not coming from here. That's not coming from the cup, from the seichel, from the mind of Ram. That's coming from loftiness, that something's in there. Sometimes you see a Baal Teshuvah, a convert, someone who all of a sudden leaves everything, and you say, what happened to you? You had a good life. What was your problem? The answer is their soul spoke to them. And their soul said, I'm not happy, I don't want this. But you have fame, and you have money, and you have pleasure, and you have this, and you have that. All of a sudden, the neshama says, this is not my food. And I don't care. That's a very lofty feeling, a very genuine feeling. And by the way, it doesn't come to most people. Most Baalei Tshuva are not that way. Most people are not that way. It's the select individuals who their connection came purely out of a loftiness, or someone who refined himself. They fasted, they were silent, they did things to really break their rough and tough character. Chasidus is a whole different approach. Chasidus says, we want you to be who you are. And we know that you're a man between men and a woman between women. And nevertheless, because God gave you a mind and you'll think and learn and understand these concepts, it will refine you. And when it refines you, you'll be able to understand everything. That's what we're learning over here. And the Rebbe says in the last point, not only will it resonate in the nefesh habamis, the nefesh elokis, it will resonate in the mind, and it will resonate in the mind of the animal as well. And that's a chidush, and that's why Hillel, the Rebbe says in the beginning of chapter 4 on page 23, Teres HaChasidus, look at the word chevra, chidsha, created. That's a chidush. No system of Judaism, from Gemara to Halacha to Kabbalah to Musar, came up with such an innovation. Because really, it's beyond the scope of traditional Judaism. That's the Chiddush of the Baal Shem Tov. Baal Shem Tov says it's beyond the scope if you look at it in a legalistic way. But if you peer from a different perspective, i.e. the neshama, the soul, it makes a lot of sense. So you understand, what I want to leave you with today is that the Baal Shem Tov is coming to Torah, and we're coming to Matan Torah, the Shabbat, Sunday, coming to it from the soul perspective. That's Siddhas. So again, Gemara is the mechanics, the mechanics. Halacha is the solidification of the mechanics, i.e. the rulings. Kabbalah is the mystical. Musar is ethics. Chassidus is soul. Soul. And of course, one shouldn't walk away saying, well, the others don't have a soul. Everyone has a soul for what they are. But the particular study of Chassidus is a soulful study. The study of Gemara is about one animal goring another animal, or how you write a get and how you make a marriage. And Halacha gives you the rules. And Musar gives you the ethics, be a mensch, be clean, be efficient, and don't procrastinate. And Kabbalah says there's something mystical. Okay? But the average person is not a Kabbalist, not a Talmudist, not a halachist, not an ethicist. He's an average person. Baal Shem Tov says, I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to talk to you. And that's why only Chasidus of the Baal Shem Tov was able to take a devastation that the Jews experienced and lifted up an entire people. And yesterday in Shul we were talking here, Borough Park used to be Ashkenazim and Sephardim and Hasidim. The Ashkenazi shuls here have closed. You can barely find a young Israel here. And if there is, they're davening Nusach Sfard already. They're not davening Nusach Ashkenaz. And already, I saw in a sefer, I cited in one of my books, on the book on the Rav, on Rabbi Soloveitchik, that I forget, Reb Meir Bar Ilan, Bar Ilan University? So the Reb Meir Bar Ilan said, he wrote, the Hasidim won. The Hasidim won. We, Slobodka and Vlozhin for 100 years, we thought, we were on top and it's going to be that way. No, he says, we lost. And it's not about winning or losing, because that's silly. But the Baal Shem Tov's derech has gone into everything. But it needs to be Baal Shem Tov. That's another discussion. There are groups and philosophies that emulate. I don't want to go into this, but I heard just last week a clip. They're talking about Reb Shaya Kerestira. You guys heard about Reb Shaya Kerestira? Right? Everyone is crazed about giving money for food because he fed people in Hungary and they're running to his caver. They have a clip online of, I don't know who they are, certain Rosh Hashiva, Litvish Rosh Hashiva. And I'm telling you the way it seems to my friends and I. They're like begrudgingly agreeing that there's something there to it. But of course, don't make it into a religion. And by the way, I understand that second part. That didn't bother me. What bothered me is that they really don't believe in the concept of a tzaddik the way Hasidim do. And it bothers me, just it's different. In other words, you have to see it. In other words, it's like, hey, the Jewish world has become crazy today, the frum world, and everyone's running, including Litvax and half of Flatbush. So, we need their money. They don't say this, but they fund Mir and Punovich and Lakewood. So, therefore, we will shake our head and go along. But really, that's not where it's at. Siddhas is a whole different thing. So, I'm saying this. It's a good thing that Litvish organizations, Rabbanim and Mashpiyim, are using Chasidus in their teachings. It's a good thing. But please, call a spade a spade. It's important not to put anyone down, just to understand that what Baal Shem Tov is about is a whole different category. It's not just a good litvak with a little spice of Chasidus. That's not Chasidus. That's a kumzitz. And it's a nice thing to have a kumzitz, but that's not Baal Shem Tov. When you learn the Siva Shalom of the Holy Tzaddik Rebbe, or the Levi Yitzchak Svarim, or the Melech Zensk, or more of a Shemesh, any Chassidus Sefer, if you learn it, it's a whole different world. It's not a world of just, legalistic, with a little taste, a little tom. Unfortunately, our world today is such, and that's why these Rosh Hashivas were speaking, because, probably in their yeshiva, they're bacher and want to go to Kerestir. And here it's the Litvish yeshiva. Here we learn. We don't run to Kvarim. I don't know the background of that video, but it seems that's what they're saying. So all I'm saying when I saw it is, let's not sell out Baal Shem Tov. And again, it has nothing to do now with Chabad. It has to do with Baal Shem Tov. When we walk into a shtibel, a Slonim shtibel, or a Tolna shtibel, or a Chabad shtibel, it should be noticeable on the people that they are Hasidim of this particular Rebbe, this particular Sefer. It should be noticeable. Not that just Jews who added an adjunct to who they are. And that's an avodah. And that's why we're alive. And that's why we have this week. Chevra, I have to go. Zay gezont. We'll see everyone tomorrow. Take care.